Hello, everybody, and welcome to Episode 4 of Jammin Shams. Today, I would like to talk to you about the soundtrack to the movie The Color Purple. The soundtrack is just as phenomenal as the movie. When you listen to the soundtrack, you're going to want to watch the movie, and when you watch the movie, you're going to want to listen to the soundtrack. It's a nice little combo that I love, and I'll be sharing a lot more like this later on in the series. And if you have any like that you say, hey, when I listen to this soundtrack, it makes me want to watch this movie, and then of course I go back to listen to the soundtrack after I watch the movie. So just share those in the comments below and let me know which combos that you have of a movie soundtrack that you're like, yeah, I gotta listen to this again, kind of thing, or watch it again too, sort of thing. In my collection, I have it on cassette, and I also have it on CD. And both the CD and the cassette, it's two cassettes and two CDs for both of the sets because there's so much good music that comes from this that they couldn't even contain it to just one cassette or one compact disc. It's that phenomenal. It's also available on vinyl and MP3. I do not have the vinyl nor the MP3 yet, but that's definitely coming in my future. The soundtrack was produced executively by Quincy Jones, and the other assistant producers on this beautiful soundtrack were Bruce Whedon and Tom Bowler. There were no singles that I could see because I did a lot of research this weekend on the soundtrack to give you the best amount of information that I could possibly give you besides the stuff that I know in my head, and also to fact check the stuff in my head so I don't tell you anything incorrect. So as far as I know, what I'm telling you is actually super duper accurate because it's on the net, so it has to be true, right? Anyway, so there were no singles released from this album that I was aware of. But when you sing Miss Celie's Blues, also known as Sister, it's Miss Celie's Blues Sister is how it's labeled on the as how it's listed when you look it up. It's titled Miss Celie's Blues Sister, and the other one is Maybe God is Trying to Tell You Something. Now, Miss Celie's Blues was a thank you song to Miss Celie from Suge Avery, and it's on the first disc and the first cassette of the soundtrack. And then on the second disc and the second cassette of the soundtrack is the other single, Maybe God is Trying to Tell You Something. And that is done near the end of the film, and it's a very beautiful scene where the song comes out, and it makes you happy, it makes you cry. It's absolutely cathartic and absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely phenomenal. This whole movie and the soundtrack are both pretty badass, if I can say that. Yeah, there are a lot of I don't know if I said this before, but there's a lot of great musicians and singers that did this album, and I'm just so glad that they did it. So two fun facts about this soundtrack that I found out online. The first one that struck me was that this is the first film that Steven Spielberg has done, and he has not had John Williams do the score for it because they pair so well together. It's like Bernie and Elton John. They do so many great things together when they collaborate. It's magical to listen to and experience. But we'll talk about Elton John later on in this series as well too. I definitely cannot leave him out of this series myself. And the soundtrack. Another fun fact about it is that the soundtrack spent 13 weeks on the charts. And why I like this album is or like the soundtrack is because when I listen to it and you listen to it, you'll immediately like, oh my gosh, like I remember that, and you'll see the scene in your head, and you'll be happy or you'll be sad, but you'll feel something, and you'll want to keep on listening, and then you'll go back and watch the movie again just because it's so phenomenal. And another great thing that I love about it is that in the African American community that I'm in, pretty much everybody knows this, or they have told their children about it, or have watched this because it's such a very poignant movie because of how big it was. The book sold a lot of copies by Alice Walker, and the screenplay was originally adapted from Alice Walker's book by the same name, The Color Purple. But yeah, when in my community, if I sing Miss Celie's Blues, people will go, "Oh, that's Sister! I love that song," and they'll know it. They'll know it's from The Color Purple. It's kind of great. What I love about it is that everybody that I've talked to of other ethnicities, they also know it as well too, like black, white, Asian. Although they like not black, because I already said it, but white, Asian, like Latino, Latinas, they all know these songs from the soundtrack, and pretty much a lot of them even know the soundtrack, or the movie, which is absolutely beautiful that knows that it just goes across all types of ethnicities. It doesn't just stay within the African community. It's able to be viewed and loved and appreciated by everyone, which is the beauty of music and movies in general. Yeah, so everybody knows the songs from it, and another reason why I like it, I like the soundtrack, is because when I listen to it with somebody else that I'm on a date with, they'll tell me, "Oh, I know this soundtrack," or like they'll say, "I know this movie. I cook with this soundtrack. I clean with this soundtrack. I drive to work with this soundtrack. I drive on road trips to this soundtrack. I travel in general with this. This is one of the soundtracks that I definitely listen to if I need to definitely distract myself very calmly for an hour and 19 minutes. I put in this Color Purple soundtrack and I listen to it and have an absolute blast and have a really great time just listening to it. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, that's about all I can cover right now because again, I said I did a lot of research and I really couldn't find as much as I was really dying to find about this soundtrack. I know that it spent 13 weeks in the charts and it peaked at number 75. I don't know if that was 75 out of 100 or whatever it was of all-time greatest soundtracks, but it was number 75, and that's all I could tell you because it wasn't even clear where I got or not where I got it, but on the site that I used, it wasn't really clear what that 75 meant as far as where it peaked. So that wraps this up. I would just like to say thank you so much to Quincy Jones, Tom Bowler, and Bruce Sweden, all the singers, all the producers, all of the musicians that played instruments or even did anything in general. The artwork for the cover for this soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal as well too. So thank you guys so much for doing this and bringing this and bringing this out to the world so everybody could hear it and get the experience and fall in love with it and just enjoy the music that goes with this absolutely amazing movie. So, if you like this segment, just go ahead and click like down here. And also, if you're thinking I'm a really cool cat, just click subscribe right here and you can be a part of it every time. So, when I do a new one, you'll be the first to hear about it. So, just have a good night tonight and please be safe. And I'll talk to y'all later.